Executive Director of the Center for Wisdom and Leadership at SPJIMR, Dr. Surya Tahora sir has been teaching spirituality and leadership to hundreds of MBA students and conducts workshops for various organizations across India, Europe and Asia. Before entering into academics and pursuing his passion for teaching, Surya sir had a successful career with various MNCs in Europe and Asia in senior leadership roles in marketing, international business development and strategic planning for 14 years. He holds a PhD of Indian philosophy and Sanskrit from Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, Tamil Nadu, a doctorate in pharmaceutical and biological sciences from Paris University, and an executive MBA from INSEAD. I request Surya sir to please come on stage and address us.
Okay, so namaste and good morning to everyone who is here. Thank you for making this effort to come to this unique event, I believe. And as I said earlier, I hope that we can really engage in a meaningful and deep conversation. A few words, I was hesitating how to bring about and tell you about the context of what we are doing, the larger context. And I was thinking that one way of looking at it, is to tell you about a metaphor which is 10,000 years old. So, or 5 or 10 or 20, we don't know exactly. It originated in Atharva Veda and then subsequently was taken further east by Mahayana Buddhist schools, Buddhists, and also even further to China. So the story or the metaphor goes like this. And it says that there is an immense web, a complex web, which consists of some jewels and some strands, which bring together and hold together this vast web of interconnectedness and interdependence. Okay. So jewels, of course, can be taken for individual human beings and all other living beings. It can stand also for mountains. It can stand for stars and planets and galaxies and rivers. So everything which is there can be represented in the form of a jewel. Now, what are the different strands who brings together, who connect together and hold together the relationship between these different elements? So there are different laws at work, and laws which can be laws of cause and effect at the physical level when we speak about galaxies and stars and the planet and the rotation of the sun and the very fact that I'm not flying here. And also you can guess all the other laws, biological laws, psychological laws, sociological laws, and so on, right? So we have also all the discipline of science, which attempt is really to decrypt the different laws of cause and effect, which are governing this interaction. So when you look at this metaphor and unpack it at a deeper level, it gives us an idea of the context of our living. So whether as human being, and also the context in which organization operates, right? So what is this context? An immense, dynamic, changing all the time, and complex web of interconnectedness and interdependence, okay? In the text which is describing this imagery, it adds a very interesting, two interesting sentences. One is, if one of the jewels or one of the strands of this web is weakened or severed, one area of the web can get loosened up and be also weakened or severed. And this tells us a lot about our capacity as human beings to make a choice on how we want to live within this context. And this is why I would like to introduce you to two really foundational concepts which are there in our Indian, let's say, civilization across any wisdom tradition here, and which is the concept of swadharma and swakarma. What is my role here if I am living in an interconnected world? And how can I translate these responsibilities, since I am connected specifically and diversely to a vast range of stakeholders, what is my swakarma? What is it that I can do about it? So the whole orientation, you understand well, in this tradition is not about escaping from the world or judging it as some illusion or whatever, but really giving us the tools to engage more effectively. So how is, to take another text now, which is Mahabharata, one very simple model and 3 keywords which are describing what are the characteristics or dharma. I will just bring that back so we can then maybe based on this pursue further. One is that from each stakeholder on your own personal map of stakeholder or your organizational map of stakeholder, we can ask ourselves the question, are our action within dharma? So it means at the basic level, are we securing for all living beings and above and beyond the living beings, when I speak about nature and trees and rivers, freedom from violence and freedom from fear? The second point is interesting as well when we come back to our metaphor of the web. Are we able not just to allow people to live without fear of violence, but are we able to support and sustain this relationship that we have, right? And uphold them. So this is dharana in Sanskrit. And the last keyword is very interesting. So in English, it would be translated as flourishing. How do we build a flourishing society? And this is also one of the characteristics of dharma. How do we bring prabhava to this entire web of interconnectedness and interdependence, enriching, increasing, enhancing all living beings? The Mahabharata, this text also described in a more negative manner, and by giving the characteristic what is the opposite of dharma, and it's quite, let's say, evident, right? Doing violence, uprooting, separating, debasing, degrading, diminishing, starving, depriving. So very powerful word which can inform us about our responsibility and the way we want to act within this vast web. Okay. Now, we can ask ourselves, so why a center for wisdom and leadership? So the connection is quite evident when we have seen this wider context. I have to say that there is a growing awareness of a need of a shift of paradigm. So the classical and the current paradigm in which we are living has been, let's say, beneficial to some extent, but at the same time, it has been now challenged and questioned from all fronts. So what does it tell us? If we look at a more, let's say, at a wider point of view, so maybe we have come at a time where there is a transition from the older paradigm which has governed business and also our ways of living since last 200 years to now a growing awareness to the necessity of shifting to a more holistic and paradigm of doing business, right? And this is even more relevant when we see that it's an age of moral or value uncertainty. It's also we are living in an age, and I will not go on and on that. You all know this. And here I would like to add my own stand on this. I am in this space, so I hear many people who in their valid criticism of the current model become bitter or cynical or angry towards the current system. I don't think that we have to take this posture. And I am certainly not taking this posture because I believe that throughout the history since human have been human, we have been able to solve this kind of need for transitions. And I think the time has come now. And I would like to cite here a very inspiring sentence by Victor Hugo. So Victor Hugo, you will understand my French accent. He's a French novelist and poet. And he has said something amazing. He has said, there is nothing as powerful and nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. So I feel this time has come. And the fact that you have all joined here means that the time is ripe now. And of course, we are beginning to be more aware of the necessity of change. And the conversation that we'll have throughout the day will be how, beyond this awareness of what we want to do about it, how can we operationalize some action together, right? So it comes also with the deep realization from many of the corporate I've been speaking to, and it is also subject of many studies, that the capacity of the existing leadership, let's say development training, to bring, let's say, skills to the senior leaders and also to the mid and level, let's say mid-level executive, has been questioned. Beyond the technical skills I'm speaking about the vertical development of people. I'm speaking not only about the mind of being smart, but also of having a heart, right? And this is why we believe that it's necessary to come back to fundamentals. After all, our name as a species is Homo sapiens. So what is the fundamental characteristic of a Homo sapiens? Wisdom. So let's bring back and go back to fundamental and go to a wisdom-based approach. Okay. Now, the vision of and mission now of the center will flow very easily. And this center has been, let's say, built, it's a baby still, I mean, in this 1-2 years old. And the vision is really to create and disseminate some ideas. Remember the power of an idea whose time has come for building a flourishing society. This dharma, this prabhava component of dharma. And that we want to accomplish by bringing together some, let's say, entities which have been, let's say, living in parallel worlds. How many times have we interacted, we academics, with organization? Vice versa, have organization really interacted at a deeper level with academics, right? What about wisdom research, which has now been like 25, 30 years, let's say, in its history, and which is rich in insights about wisdom? Wisdom in leadership is another question, where David Rooney, who is here, is one of the few writers who have made the connection with leadership. But this is the vision of the center, the mission of the center. And obviously, we don't want just to focus on Eastern wisdom, but really bring wisdom. If we are Homo sapiens, it has no nationality and no country where it belongs to. So all the research has been based on Greek, mostly, let's say, paradigm and philosophy with Aristotle. David will tell us more. But more and more, the new wisdom researchers that we have been meeting and who have been with us are the ideas of ancient Eastern wisdom have percolated in their way of looking at things. So we want to go also there and bring together all these researchers, both from outside India and within India, for impacting leadership practices. So this is our advisory board. So David Rooney is here. We have some people who are researchers like Howard Nussbaum and Monica Ardell, or like the greatest mind, the wisdom experts as of today at a global level. So they are on our board, and it has been so enriching to work with them. They have many ideas. They might not know how to translate it into something which is a practical approach. And this is why we believe that the center is there for that, right? And your inputs into what can work and what cannot work is so important. So we have these three wisdom researchers. We have Snehal, who is our associate dean, who is here, of academics and research. We have, of course, our dean, Varun Nagaraj. We have Padmanabhan from, where is he? Here, from Tata. We have some people who are in the tech sector. Nitin Seth, who has been CEO here of, I think it was Flipkart, and then moved to US, and very successful and very innovative approach to develop his organization. And Laurent Ledoux is a consultant in transformation and leadership training, which has brought very innovative approaches, which are really breaking with the traditional organizational behavior, let's say, kind of leadership theories and so on, right? These are some of the faculty affiliates. Some of them are there, so I thank them for being there. You have Ajinkya, who is, where is he? Who is here with our lead research. We have Tanvi also, who is a researcher, so young minds and bright minds. We have Dinyar Patel, who is not here, who is an historian. I will speak more about that. Sajid is there, who is taking care more of leadership intervention. Ananta Lolikar, important also to have an executive of, in residence, who have been a former CEO at Cummins. Sumita Datta, long experience in organizational and leadership, let's say, field, but also running a lot of leadership training. And Jagdish, who is also here. Where is he? Yeah, here. And who has been, who is a journalist, but who is teaching a course on ethics as well, right? The admin team, they have been here. We have our students, these 15 students who are helping our committee for this event, okay? Now, what are the focus areas? The focus areas are quite evident. We want to seek insight from various wisdom traditions. So I would say in India is rich. We have a huge heritage of wisdom tradition from different, let's say, streams. And I include here Sufism, I include Sikhism, I include Jainism, and also Buddhism who has been here. And of course, as I had mentioned earlier, we are not, let's say, averse at all. In fact, we'll welcome any other, let's say, wisdom models coming from anywhere, whether it's South America or further east towards Taoism or Confucianism. First focus area. Second focus area, define what are the skills which are required by you at present to face this huge uncertainty, this huge disruption which is happening, right? And third, cross-functional areas. We want not just to stay within, let's say, psychology, sociology, and philosophy, but we want also to touch other domains like history. So I will tell more about history. So these are some of the initiative and some of the projects we have on research at the center. One very important thing is this white paper, which should come out soon in 2-3 months, Tanvi, yeah? And it has been based on some of the interview, of course, that Tanvi has had with some of you here, 5 or 7 interviews so far, and we'll go to 15. So we want to incorporate in our white paper, of course, your insights and your suggestions and your feedback. But of course, it includes let's say, a review of most of the leadership theories, and we're identifying what are the gaps and the challenges that are facing the organization and how that can define a kind of manifesto of this center, right? Then you have like more classical, let's say, kind of research streams. Varun attempt, of course, is to develop a model of wise innovation. So it's that is in the process. We'll hear him this morning immediately after me. We'll make also a connection with Stoicism and Greek philosophy with Tanvi, and also refer to dark leadership behavior, right? The antithesis of wise behavior. And Ajinkya has been working on the concept of karma yoga. So karma, action, which I think is central for all of us, right? Now, history, we have Dinyar Patel, who is looking at history from the lens of what can we learn from history. So the classical cases we know from Mahatma Gandhi to Nelson Mandela and so on, who are learning their life stories and how they are navigated through challenges. So here the idea is to expand our repertoire of what are these people doing? People who have been successful in different, let's say, domains, whether it's political or business or economical or any sphere or any domain. And what is it and how did they handle and what can we learn from them, okay? So we have started one very interesting stream, which is we want to create knowledge and disseminate this knowledge. So I will present what we have done during the last, let's say, 6 months, 1 year, in terms of wisdom research seminars, right? Where we have invited some wisdom researchers, and among them there is some members of the board of the CWIL. And the question here is, and the brief that they are getting, of course, from a research angle, what can we learn and what can we learn about what is wisdom to help solve individual and organizational challenges, but more also develop a practice and a language of people who are, of researchers who will be interested to join together and work together on this wisdom, let's say, domain, right? Now, these are some of them. Wise leadership, are you virtuous enough to succeed in volatile times? Then you have Bernard McKenna, who is one of the other few people who have looked into wisdom and leadership. We have wise reasoning. When we speak about wisdom, it's oftenly associated to only this cognitive part. But what is really wise reasoning? Is it just about being smart or something deeper? And David was exploring also something interesting about if we want to bring an approach to study this field, which is really about social sciences. It's not something which is totally well quantifiable and measurable. So can we maybe advance research in the domain through bringing in elements of quantum, let's say, tools to study social sciences? So you see how we can, let's say, go across multiple disciplines, right? Monica Ardell, who is also on our board, an interesting take here is not just about individual leadership or individual wisdom. It's one of the first paper, it's the first paper, I think, on what is a wise organization and what does it mean to be a wise organization, okay? So we're going also to try to strengthen the capacity of our own, let's say, institute, SPJIMR, and to develop our research capability. And of course, the primary audience will be our own, let's say, PhD student. Now, in the sphere of not just meeting researcher and having researcher meet themselves and like elaborating very complicated stuff, the idea of the podcast was to disseminate what are the learnings from the same people, but in a more conversational format, and aim to a wider audience, okay? And so here we have a few examples of what we have done. We have been speaking about mindfulness, what it is bringing to the table. It's a big, let's say, phenomena which has really been pervading the whole Europe and US. What are the limits and what are the benefits? And can we think also about mindfulness without falling in the trap of McDonaldization or commodization of this mindful movement, right? Then wise reasoning again. Then here, wisdom research to organization leadership. The other one, knowns and unknowns. We live in a polarized world. So what do we do about this? How does it mean to bring wisdom, and how can we help us to solve this issue of polarization? Okay. So I invite you, of course, all these links are on website. If you're interested, you can listen to there. So there is a podcast by Monica Ardell on this, what is a wise organization? A very interesting model by Judith Gluck, she is from Austria, and about an integrative model. See, after 30 years of research in wisdom, now the different researchers are coming together and proposing some integrative model, okay? So it's interesting to look at that. Because what we want now as a center is develop maybe a model which incorporates, whenever it's required, some views of this Indian wisdom tradition as well, right? So these are also what I was speaking about, or bringing the lens of history to wisdom. So hosted by Dinyar Patel, and looking at a broader view of history. And some of the prestigious guests was Ramachandra Guha. Then we're speaking about looking at the constitution. Then also Nikhil Menon, the first, let's say, planning commission in India. Then also looking at the Sassoon, how an Iraqi, let's say, immigrant came to Bombay and made a fortune. And how did he do that, right? Then we have also a view from architecture. So those who live in Bombay here would be interested to look at, yeah, what is it? How is it that it seems to be a chaotic, let's say, planning? And then we have something about woman power in the Sikh Empire, right? Executive program, and I will end here. we are now developing, and it will be out in the month of March, to start with two, let's say, open management development bookmark. One will be on mindfulness, but without falling into the traps of this commoditization, because we are coming from a place of experience and knowledge. The people who will teach it will be really deeply rooted in their living about these practices, and will bring some insights from Gita and Mahabharata for leaders, from adapted, contextualized to higher level, things which I'm already doing with for our Executive MBA students. Okay, so that's it. As a conclusion, bringing together a network of researchers, both India and international, creating and disseminating knowledge in various formats, and then developing some practices in, again, some various formats. It need not be only in the form of leadership intervention. It can be in the form of breakfast meeting, lunch, or seminar, or circle meeting, regional, gathered on a special team, and so on, right? So for that, we'll have to collaborate and think together what is it that is of your interest. So thank you. I am now leaving the space to you.